kind of titled this on censorship. 47 hours ago, I received a censorship request notification under the rubric of privacy due to having had a YouTube channel for quite a long time. I don't know, 10 years? I'm pretty used to them. I try to no longer associate myself with artists who have a lot of privacy concerns or insecurities or artistic insecurities because they're the ones that are more likely to try to censor my YouTube content. I also I don't know, I'm not too terribly interested in following concerts at the moment, but the latest one was a censorship request on the sort of like a psychological exploration of my own process of dealing with a traumatic assault. And I viewed it as kind of like a potentially educational on STD issues, assault issues, what kinds of situations people might be in. And I do not know for a fact that the assailant is the person requesting the privacy protection. It could be an associate of his, a coworker. It could be his girlfriend or his other girlfriend or friend, female friend. I don't know who put in the request, so I really should not rush to judge. Although I think most likely he would be the person who wants that information censored. And I think it's one thing to assault someone, but it's another thing to try to gag their testimony or gag their right of self publicity or autobiography. And I think in embracing the internet age, it's kind of interesting what kinds of people are really actually into censorship and the presumption that someone is modern, free speech loving, supporting of general objectives of openness, internet transparency are really, really not. Those assumptions may be wrong, as I've discovered in radical communities, including people who may comport themselves as anarchists or Democrats, or they often are the most censorable. So it's kind of I feel I just put in a complaint to the state of Oregon regarding what I consider to be a discriminatory outlook in having my participation and attendance in a program restricted based on the continued employment of a person who harassed and assaulted me. And I'm thinking I may get a little headway in that regard, but for me, dealing with administrative bodies is sort of like playing with old computers. It's like trying to make old machines work. So when I go straight to the internet, that's because I know that's the VIP lane to transparency and accountability. And those are the tools that young people have. Those are the tools that a 20-year-old woman may have available. And I think that that openness to sharing information and publicity is sort of it's like the printing press revolution was back in the day when it helped power the French Revolution. The internet revolution will help power civic rights for all kinds of people, including women and minorities. So to have someone trying to censor me and gag me and put me back in the 14th century or something regarding his right to assault me, to gag me, and then to also take benefits and opportunities and exclude those who do not wish to be subject to quid pro quo harassment or assault or retaliatory assault or harassment. It's kind of very, very outdated patriarchal value system going on there. And given as I'm out in a rural county, in some ways I think Clatsop County has a unique set of advantages and disadvantages, being that it isn't the city. It does have a lot of city people, maybe from Seattle, Portland, or California, or various places, East Coast, that come here and maybe have city values towards women's full empowerment and access to opportunity and education, and that also the the county has a heavy population of Scandinavian multi generations of immigration and settlement here, which the Scandinavian cultures, as I've studied them, have very high levels of advancement and opportunity and equality for women and position in government and administration and authority. So I think in some sense, my dwelling here I may be able to reach the collective consciousness of people who have equality in their heart. So, in that sense, I see the reach out to be an opportunity. I also feel a large degree of responsibility towards prevention of abuse of other persons. So, in a sense, the outreach that I'm able to do on the internet is of deep concern to me because I have to live with my conscience, and I know that something very wrong happened and very frightening happened, and I don't think gagging me is actually the moral or ethical thing to do, and I recognize it to be potentially of a criminal mindset, much as a rapist cutting a phone line, so a rape victim cannot call for help and report and have a proper criminal inquiry. So sometimes, I mean, I take for granted that in some countries, or even here in America, sometimes bloggers, whistleblowers, and journalists are retaliated against in small or large ways, and that some bloggers are sitting in jail cells or having police pound down their door, or being murdered, for instance, like the journalist in Malta, or plenty of journalists in Russia, etc. So I don't take for granted my American liberties and the relative open transmission of information we can have here in the United States of America. So, in a sense, any attempt to censor me from advocating for issues of equalities, I find perversely un-American also. And in the spirit of autobiography, from a literary or journalistic sense, I realize that we all have a story to tell. Everyone has a story to tell, and that speaking my truth to the internet is my right and my opportunity. And I hope that possibly it could inspire young people to seize the power that they have and defend the rights that they have, and defend those rights against incursion, which, when my rights were violated, it was a very disheartening experience. But I think that by trying to reestablish a balance in the universe, by reaccessing power and describing the horror, the anxiety, and the reverberations that occur when an assault such as happened to me happened, I'm at least restoring a little bit of balance and fairness in the universe. So any attempts at censorship to me are quite a negative. And regarding the assault, this particular assault to which I refer was a non-penetrative, though sexual assault, which involved a man non-consensually pressing his erect penis on me through his clothes against my will, with my arms pinned down and my legs pinned down, and against my will, and it invoking or causing horror in my mind to ensue as to whether or not he would rape, whether or not he would use a condom if he raped, whether or not I could flee, whether or not he would kill me if I didn't comply, whether or not he would kill me if I did comply. And he had just harassed me about herpes that he has, And so I was also in great fear of him giving me a sexually transmitted disease that he had warned me about. So I think those are very terrible things. And I think I feel very lucky that the assault went no further and it was not a penetrative rape kind of a sexual assault, but it was non-consensual. It was disgusting and revolting and terrifying, and I was completely overpowered. So that's not something I think, there's no privacy in crime. There's no secrecy that crime deserves, and that was a criminal act. So, thanks to YouTube for supporting bloggers' rights and freedom of speech in the USA. And I hope that women can make opportunity to share these kinds of incidences. The fact that the person who did this is in a position of power and authority, working through a multi-county agency, which is employed by the state of Oregon, and who works with aged and disabled clients, I find to be also very morally offensive. And given my family's background in nursing and social work, I find it extremely revolting, but I'm also trying to access my internal power to get the right wheels started of the old machine in terms of helping the agencies, figureheads, and authorities understand their responsibility to protect the vulnerable and not let this happen again, and not continue to maintain any discriminatory atmosphere, or even just from a fiscal sense in terms of liability mitigation. So it's thanks to everybody who's given me support and listened, and I'm glad I'm coming to a place of healing and wellness, because the emotional wipeout that happens from this kind of assault is not, it's not funny. And trying to be gagged 47 and a half hours ago is just, to me, utterly absurd, but it kind of lets me know the outlook of persons who maybe want to keep things in the Stone Age.